Bless your name, Jesus. Thank you, God. Let your living waters flow over my soul. Let your Holy Spirit come and take control of every situation that has troubled my mind. All my cares and burdens unto you I roll. All my cares and burdens unto you I roll. Let your living water flow over my soul, and let your Holy Spirit come and take control of every situation that has troubled my mind. All my cares and burdens unto you I roll. All my cares and burdens unto you I roll. Let the living water, yes, Lord, flow over my soul. Your Holy Spirit, yeah, come and take control of every situation that has troubled my mind. All my cares and burdens, yeah. All my cares and burdens, let your living water flow over my soul. Let your Holy Spirit come and take control of every situation that has troubled my mind. All my cares and burdens, all my cares and burdens are brought to you. So we sing, Jesus, we can call on the name of Jesus. Oh, the name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous run in there, you're saying, yeah. Oh, sing Jesus. Oh, Jesus, and all my cares and burdens unto you I roll. All my cares and burdens unto you I roll. Sing all my cares and burdens. All my cares and burdens, Lord. to you, Jesus. All my cares and burdens unto you. All my cares and burdens. Sing all my cares and burdens. I run unto you, Jesus. All my cares and burdens. I run unto you. All my cares and burdens. All my cares and Lord, we bless your name, Jesus. We lift our hands to you, Lord. You are Jesus. Thank you, Lord. Sing all my cares and burdens. Lord, unto you will come. We lay them at your feet, Jesus. All my cares. All my cares and burdens. Drop them at your feet. All my cares and
Good morning, everyone. It's good to be back at Soul City. Can we have our seats very briefly? I'm not the speaker today. I'm here to introduce this speaker. First, I'll read his profile, then I'll say a few words and we'll have him. Are we happy to be here this morning? You guys don't sound happy. Maybe when I finish reading this profile, you'll be happier. All right. Our guest this morning is Mr. Kola Aina. Those who know. Kola Aina is an experienced investor, insightful non-executive director, and company chair dedicated to supporting the growth of startups across emerging markets. Is the founding partner at Ventures Platform Fund, a leading Pan-African early-stage venture capital firm with a proven track record of exits. One of those exits is SpaceTac. You can Google it if you don't know what it is. He has led early-stage investment in over 100 companies across Africa, India, and the United States. Notable investments include fintech giants like MoneyPoint and Paystack. We all know MoneyPoint, right? So those are the people behind the companies. I'll take that part again. Notable investments include fintech giants like MoneyPoint and Paystack, and healthcare innovations like MDAS and Reliance HMO. Previously, Kola was the founder and CEO of Emerging Platforms, a pioneering enterprise software provider in West Africa. His extensive networks span the private sector, development partners, financiers, governments, and regulators, allowing him to effectively bridge innovation with impactful investments. Kola serves on the board of Enhancing Financial Innovation and Access, EFIA, and the Lagos State Research and Innovation Council, LASRIC. I hope I pronounced that correctly. As an avid art patron, he is a member of the advisory board of the Yemisi Shillong Art Museum and the Africa Acquisitions Committee, AAC. AAC at the Tate Museum. He is also a member of the Young Presidents Organization, YPO, and a fellow of the Aspen Institute, USA, and the African Leadership Institute, that's Bishop Tutu Fellowship. Kola strongly advocates for the power of righteous capital to drive change and believes in the regenerative power of investment as ministry. Outside of work, he enjoys reading and cherishes time with his family. Can we put our hands together for Mr. Kola Aina? And before I leave the stage and welcome him, I'd like to say this. I've known we call him Mr. K. I've known him for more than 10 years, I think about 13 years now, thereabout. And he was my mentor, then he became my boss, and now he's back to being my mentor, right? And I can say that I talk about him a lot. If you know me, and you spend 3 hours with me, and you don't hear me say Kola Aina, then we are not discussing something serious. And most of the things that I learned in business, that I do in business today, I learned from him. So if you're one of those people that says you learn a lot of things from me, I learned most of them from him. So now listen to the person that taught me the things that I taught you. All right, so let's put our hands together to welcome on stage Mr. Kola Aina.
Good morning. Please. Thank you. It is such a privilege and an honor to be here with you this morning. Oh, I see some familiar faces in the audience. I get a chance to meet someone that I've been looking forward to meet after service. My son is here with me this morning. I told you I would embarrass you. Shall I read your profile? It's such an honor to be here. I want to thank the lead pastor, my personal pastor, Pastor Sunday Ogidigbo, and the resident pastor of this church. I don't want to attempt to say the last name because I was practicing it. And but thank you for being so gracious and for inviting me here today. It's an honor. I've been asked to speak about, I consider Holy Hill my church, even though I don't attend service here regularly, so it's good to be here. Thank you for coming so early in the morning. I've been asked to speak about a topic that I would say is at the heart of the mission of the work, the mission of my life and the work that I do. And so I said yes, even though it wasn't very exactly convenient because I was meant to be somewhere else. Because I can talk through this even in my sleep because it's what I do every day. But you know, when you are speaking in church and when you're speaking to God's people, it's less about what you know, right? It's really more about what He wants you to share with His people. So I hope that this morning God's message will reach you in a way that will bless you. Amen? So next slide. Do we have a clicker or should I just say next slide? So my name is Kola Aina. I've been introduced already, so there's no need to do that. I was reflecting a little bit on my claim to this pulpit, why I should stand here. And it was actually very interesting because it dawned on me that over the last 20 years, I've built or been part of building no less than maybe 10 businesses. But more importantly, I've had the privilege to be part of something in the region now of 140 businesses around the world as an investor and advisor. And in that time, I've learned a few things, and I continue to learn. But I think one of the most interesting ones is a funny anecdote I'll start with. And it's this reality that I think describes the topic that I've been asked to speak about. Tackling social problems through financially viable solutions. And it goes like this. Just because there's a gap in the market does not mean there's a market in the gap. All right? And I think that's what we're here to talk about today. Is how do you solve market gaps in sustainable ways? The reality is that not all market gaps can be solved with the solutions that we have today and the constraints that we have today in sustainable ways. Let me take that again. There are certain market gaps that you and I, given the context we live in, may not be best positioned to solve sustainably. And so what we're going to do today is we'll attempt to, I would walk you through a few case studies of some individuals that have identified gaps in the market where there were markets in the gap. Does that make sense? And I will share a few reflections that I've learned from observing them, but also building my own businesses along the way. Most of the entrepreneurs I invest with or in don't realize that I actually learn a lot from them, from just watching them. And for every investment I make, I become a better investor for the next one by learning from them. So I'll be sharing those lessons with you today. I work at a company called Ventures Platform. I think that was mentioned already. We are considered one of the leading early stage funds on the continent. Effectively, we invest in companies very early and support them to scale. But we invest in a particular kind of company. Next slide. Next slide. And the kinds of companies we like to invest in are a very apt description of what I believe this lecture would aim to, help you sort of build. We invest in companies that we consider to be market-creating innovations. It's a mouthful, but anyone that works with me understands what this is. And we invest in these types of innovations because we believe that they are the most needed innovations in this part of the world, but also they are the innovations that are most likely to be financially viable. I think I was made for this talk. The idea, the thesis, or the theory behind this discovery was documented in a book called The Prosperity Paradox, a book written by a dear friend of mine and a Christian brother co-authored by Fosa Ojomo and Clayton Christensen. If you are a student of innovation, you would have read books like The Innovator's Dilemma. Prof is late now, but Efosa continues to propagate the gospel as we say it. All innovations are not equal. In Africa, the most viable innovations have to be market creating. And that's at the thesis of the work that I do and that we do at Ventures Platform. To date, we've been, next slide, fortunate to work with a few companies that people consider category leading. And we will be talking through a number of those case studies today. Next slide. But before we dive into it, as I was reflecting on how I would spend the next hour or so with you, Proverbs 27:17, kind of spoke to me. And it's this idea that iron sharpens iron. And so one person sharpens another. There's a lot we can learn from those that have gone before us. I always say that there's no need to make new mistakes because people have made old mistakes, right? Because people have made them. And so it's really important that you, as an entrepreneur or someone interested in entrepreneurship, that you take time to study the successes and failures that exist and abound in the minefields of entrepreneurship. Am I going too slow? Okay, cool. So let's explore a few case studies. So the first case study we would explore is a small little company called PiggyVest. How many people in the audience use PiggyVest? Pastor uses PiggyVest too. Wonderful. Thank you very much for your custom. PiggyVest is a company. I met the founders in 2017. The company was started, I believe, in 2016 by a group of young, at the time, millennials, right? Yeah, they were all in their late teens and early 20s. They had graduated from Covenant University. What was the social problem they wanted to solve? They realized that across Nigeria, there was very low financial inclusion, particularly amongst young, lower-income people or mid-income people. And that low financial inclusion was really acute when it came to savings and investments, right? And so what was the innovation? They figured that if you group, and well, let me give a life example. If you wanted to invest in a treasury bond or government bill or something, you had a minimum entry requirement. For instance, you needed ₦1 million. Well, if you earned 200,000 or 100,000, by the time you're done with all your expenses, you barely have anything left. So they said, how about we group all of this, 10 of these people together, and all of a sudden we have the minimum entry requirement. Sounds very simple. Fast forward, well, if it's simple, why didn't someone else do it? Fast forward, last year, 5 million users. They had disbursed almost ₦1 trillion. I think it's one of the greatest examples of a financially viable business model that's solving a critical social problem. I mean, all you need to do is talk to yourselves about the problems PiggyVest that has helped you solve. I think it's a great example of what we're here to talk about today. Let me give you another example. I have a friend who I went to high school with. I'm going to be telling lots of stories today. Unfortunately, they had a son, and the son had a heart condition. And that heart condition meant that they needed to go for regular scans. And they lived in a part of Kaduna that didn't have any diagnostic center that had the machine or the equipment they needed. So effectively, for many years, they would have to come from Kaduna to Abuja once or twice a week to get that scan done. Now, if you know the Kaduna-Abuja expressway, you know that no one is really excited to get on that expressway, right? So one day I meet this founder who says he wants to democratize access to high-quality medical diagnostics in tier 2 cities around Nigeria. What do you think I did? I invested. Partly because I wanted to solve that problem. But it's not so simple. MDAS is now one of the largest and fastest growing medical diagnostics businesses in Nigeria. But it didn't start that way. The basic concept was we will combine smart financing for the assets with digital records and centralized medical personnel so we can scale without having to have a replication of the specialist personnel in all our centers. Today, MDAS is in probably, actually, not probably, more than 2/3 of the states in Nigeria, and also now in Cameroon. The company was founded in 2017. Profitable, growing, and really changing the face of diagnostics in Nigeria. My third case study for you this morning is a company called Thrive Agric. Anyone know Thrive Agric? Good. Thrive Agric, I think there's something in the water at Covenant University. Thrive Agric is an agri-tech company that's using technology to empower smallholder farmers across Nigeria, and now in Kenya and Ghana. But it didn't start that way. When I met Uka and Ayo in 2017, they had just graduated. I remember very vividly, I always say this to embarrass Uka, he had a white shirt on with a stain on his shirt. But he had this idea that he wanted to really help smallholder farmers increase their yield. So the challenge was smallholder farmers are not as productive as they need to be. Number one, don't earn enough for their produce. And number three, Nigeria as a whole suffers from food insecurity. So what was the original innovation? The original innovation was, how do you connect capital with the people that need it? And so what they did was they identified that at that time, people were looking for investment opportunities. And because a small company called Paystack had built the financial rails, they said, what if we digitize farm investing by allowing people log onto a website, elect to invest in 1 hectare of rice, for instance, put in their card on a Paystack payment gateway, and voila, we take their money, we give it to the farmer. Well, we don't give the farmers money, because if we give them the money, they may go marry, the guy might go marry another wife or throw a party. But we use the money to buy all the inputs they need. And we also negotiate with the off-takers like Nestle, Mr. Biggs, whatever, and we create this marketplace. Today, Thrive Agric works with over close to 1 million farmers in Nigeria, in Kenya, and Ghana. Now, all of these businesses, these 3 businesses that we've talked through, are all solving different social problems. The first is solving a social problem for access to high-yield savings. If you can't save or invest, you can't grow your wealth. Just impossible. The second business is access to medical diagnostics. And the third business is helping smallholder farmers produce more and solving for food insecurity. I would like you to keep these 3 case studies in your mind as we now proceed. The last slide, please. No, the last slide. The person that's doing the slides has to flow with me. Thank you. Thank you. No. Go back. You've gone too far. Yes, perfect. So what lessons can we learn from these case studies? I spent very little time just talking through high level what these businesses do. But in a few minutes, I'm going to walk you through some of my personal lessons from observing these entrepreneurs, and would make it as interactive as we can. Actually, let's play a fun game. What is the one common thread that you've picked from all of these businesses? Anyone but Lolade and Femi? Anyone else? One common thread, yes. They identified a problem. That is actually fantastic. They identified a problem. They identified a problem. I think you've been looking at my slides, because what you've just said is my first lesson. And it sounds very basic, but it's actually the most difficult thing for most people. Identifying a problem that you can fix. So let's proceed. So these are my simple notes from years of building and investing, and we'll walk through this 13. I mean, I could have continued, but I just wanted to share with you the most dear to my heart. And when I ran out of space on the slides, I stopped. Let's keep going. Next slide. So the first thing that I think is very characteristic of the businesses we just spoke to is that you have to start with curiosity. Far too many of us in Nigeria walk around every day without paying attention, without asking questions. All around us in Nigeria, in Abuja, are challenges or opportunities masking themselves as challenges. But it's so convenient to just keep going, right? So convenient. And unfortunately, it's now become a national disease that everyone just moves on. And these aren't even just basic problems or business opportunities. There's a bomb blast in Jalingo. We just keep moving. Someone gets kidnapped. We just keep moving. People don't get angry. People aren't concerned. You have to force yourself to be constantly curious, to ask questions. On my streets, I walk most mornings when I'm in Abuja. And over the years, I have noticed the sanitation on my streets do like this. It used to be pristine. Now, there's litter everywhere. And every morning, as I walk with my trainer, I get angry. Like, why? What is so complicated with picking up trash? So because I'm always looking for work to do, I call the meeting. And now we have a project. I started by changing my own garbage disposal. We bought the large industrial ones. And the next step is I've been looking for someone that I can inspire to start a garbage collection business. Because I can't see problems and ignore them. And that's the same way these entrepreneurs landed on these ideas. You have to ask questions, probe. I'm not suggesting that you start a business to solve every problem. All right? But you have to be so concerned, because it's in the place of curiosity that you can identify a problem that you can commit yourself to. And even after you've identified that problem, it's only in the place of curiosity that you can develop the attribute of continuous improvement. It's a muscle. You have to build a muscle. So when you identify, when you're traveling at the airport and you see something not being done correctly, challenge it. ask a question. I hope you know that your personal life and your business life kind of influence each other. So everything you practice on a daily basis reflects itself in your business. You have to start with curiosity. They don't teach it in Nigerian schools. So you have to force yourself to learn it. The second attribute that I picked up from the entrepreneurs we talked about and many others I've worked with is they all have a personal why. Now, this is very important because in the last decade or so, or last 5 years, entrepreneurship has become fashionable. Everyone wants to launch a new startup and go on LinkedIn and say, I'm super excited to inform you that. Or raise $1 million and go on Tech Cabal and do a press release. All of those entrepreneurs I talked through have a very personal why. And the reason this is important is that building these viable, financially viable businesses at scale is extremely hard. Let's not deceive ourselves. You can't actually pray the hardness away. You have to go through the hardness. It's part of the process. And so when it gets hard, the fuel you're going to need to stay the course is that personal why. Every 3 months or 2 months, I ask myself, why did I choose this work? But I remember my why, and it's very clear, and I go, that's actually why. So if you've already started a business, the challenge for you is why? Why are you building this business? What about this challenge or this problem is personal to you? When I do slides, I like to use book covers. This is a cover from a book called Start With Why by Simon Sinek. Good. You guys have read it. You're all compliant. It's a great book to sort of help you wrap your mind around this concept of starting with why. Uka is from Benue State. Next slide. Former slide. Yeah, thanks. Uka, one of the founders of Thrive Aggregates from Benue State. And he hasn't told me this, but I believe his why is that he grew up in a farming community. And he was frustrated that the farmers couldn't leverage their natural environment and what they did naturally to become wealthy. He felt it personally. I give another story of another entrepreneur that's built a very financially viable business that's solving a social problem. A company called GeroCare. Anyone know GeroCare? Good. GeroCare, they've been growing now over the last 7 years. I think we invested in that company in 2017. Dr. Abies, the day I found out his why, I almost cried. Apparently he had lost, I want to say, 2 loved ones because they couldn't get access to medical care. And so he built this business that you could subscribe for doctors for your parents, and the doctors will go visit them at home. It's been a grind. GeroCare they've gone through a lot. But every time I see him, he's charging on. And I'm pretty confident that the reason he stayed the course is because it's a very personal why. At Ventures Platform, one of the things we look to test for in the entrepreneurs we invest in is the why. Why are you building this? Because if your why isn't personal, it becomes a flash in the pan. And when you see people bouncing from one idea to the other, there's no why. It's just a hustle. Next slide. if you want to build anything at scale in this part of the world, if it's not an MCI, don't even bother. Honestly, I'm very convinced. This is one of the hills I'll die on, as they say. I am utterly convinced. And the reason this is important is, you can't see the slide properly, but in Nigeria, you have 3 people. The population is in 3 buckets. This is a little technical, but you have to understand it. You have the very wealthy. You have a middle class. And you have very low income. Which of those 3 buckets is in the majority? Sorry? Did someone say middle income? Low income. The largest segment of our population are extremely poor, and in some cases getting poorer. So that's where the greatest need is. And so if you're surrounded by poor people and you want to build a large business, what should you do? Build a business for who? For poor people. That solves problems for poor people. But it's difficult because poor people don't have money. So in there lies the puzzle. How do you build a large, scalable, viable business for low-income consumers? The answer to that question lies in market-creating innovations. So if you leave here with anything today, leave here with this realization that we all need to, if we're interested in this topic, we all need to go study what MCIs are. And like I said in the beginning, the work that I'm focused on doing is supporting these types of entrepreneurs. We don't have a lot of time, but effectively, an MCI is an innovation that gives people access to a good or service that they ordinarily will not have access to, by innovating how that good or service is delivered. So a great example is PiggyVest. Before PiggyVest, if you earned, I don't know, 200,000, you had no chance of ever saving in a high yield savings instrument. Fast forward, today, 7 million users and counting have access to it. And it's life-changing for them. They can save for their education, they can save for their house rent, and all sorts of things. Now, this is not to say that you can't build a business to target the 1% of the 1%. If that's what you want to do, I wish you the best of luck. But this is the most viable path, especially if you're trying to solve social problems. Next slide. Start small, but think big. Everyone wants to build a big business overnight. The most complex innovations started as very simple innovations. Anyone remember Instagram in the early days? How many buttons did it have? Anyone remember? I think it had 1 or 2. And it was only available on the Android OS for many years. But clearly that wasn't the ambition. It's okay to start small. All of the businesses here that I talked about earlier started small. All of them. Start from where you are. Start from what you have. Next slide. And closely related to that is this, something I like to say, that MVP everything. Everyone knows what an MVP is? Who knows what an MVP is? A couple of people do. It's a minimum viable product. Now, I have actually extended this idea of MVP and everything far beyond business. So today, I make decisions in MVP, like every decision. Let me explain. But if I want to make a critical decision that I'm unsure of, I start to think, what is the smallest version of this decision that I can make today and use to test what it would look like at scale? Hello? So, my wife and I were considering having our daughter become a boarder, but we weren't sure. So what do? We started looking for opportunities for her to go for camps, and we would observe how she carried on, what the experience was like. First opportunity, second opportunity, then our confidence grew. It's such a powerful concept that you can use to make critical life decisions. But it also applies to business. And it's relevant not only when you're starting, it's relevant even as you're scaling. I'll explain what I mean. So you're thinking about launching a new product, or you're thinking about changing some system in your business or your startup. Always reflect, what is the smallest version of this big thing we want to do that we can implement today to learn how to scale what we want, the decision or the product we want to create. But the most important thing is, as you launch that small version, you have to measure. Because if you don't measure, you're just wasting your time. You have to measure. So for instance, with my daughter, was she happy? Did she come back excited? You know? Because as you measure, you learn, and you build, and you keep iterating. The first version of Thrive Agric was that individuals can go on the website, put in their card, and subscribe. You were all around during COVID, right? Who had money stuck with Thrive Agric? None of you in this church, or you don't want to admit. So that was the first version. But we learned. Thrive Agric MVP'd, measured, learned, and we pivoted to institutional investors. So today, Thrive Agric won't collect your money anymore, but they've scaled, right? So rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. But all through that process, you are measuring, learning, and you are kind of evolving. Your product or service has to be 10x better. We live in a world that is hyper competitive. And with the introduction of AI, it's so easy to be outcompeted today. So is your product 10x better? If it is not 10x better, you are not going to win in the market. It's that simple. You have to obsess about excellence. You have to push the limit. All of the businesses we talked through are 10x better than their competition. Thrive, there was an era when these agri platforms were the rave, right? You had so many. Where are they today? Huh? Many. Farm Crowdy, your old Crowdyvest, all sorts. Where are they today? Their offering was not 10x better. There are many competitors or examples of businesses like PiggyVest. Where are they today? Your product or offering has to be 10x better. Not 1x better, not slightly better, not like, 10x better. One of my faves. If you have an ailment, say you have, I don't know, you won't have it in Jesus' name. But let's say you have an ailment and you go to the doctor and he prescribes a painkiller and some vitamins to give you immunity. You go to the pharmacist and they tell you that the painkiller the doctor prescribed is 1,000 naira. And the vitamins he said you should take for long life and prosperity is 1,000 naira. And all you have is 1,000 naira. Which one will you buy? Hello? You're in pain, oh. Which one will you buy? You buy vitamin. This is exactly how the average Nigerian consumer makes decisions. Remember, we are all agreed that the vast majority of consumers are in that third bucket. It means that unfortunately, they have an increasingly shrinking wallet. So people only care about what? Painkillers. Unfortunately, we can, those of us or those of you that are more privileged, you can sit on your high table and say, but that's short-term thinking. You should be taking vitamins so you can avoid the pain. When you're in pain, and you only have that. And so the question for you is your business a painkiller or vitamin? If it's a vitamin, it doesn't cut it in this market. Next slide. People are your greatest leverage. One of my favorite founders is a guy called Kola Aina. I don't know how he does it, but if I send Kola Aina a WhatsApp message now, I am pretty confident I will get a response in 10 minutes max. At any time of the day. I don't know if he sleeps. Shola understood the power of people as his leverage. And I think all of those entrepreneurs I talked about also understand that. It's so important. How strong is your social capital? How are you deliberately investing in your relationships? Because you're going to need them. When I think about my net worth, the biggest chunk of my net worth is actually my network. Because by the grace of God, there is no problem I have today that I can't identify one or two people that I can reach. What's the version of that for you? How do you treat your team? How do you treat your investors? Unfortunately, many entrepreneurs make this mistake today. You want to fundraise, and all of a sudden, the relationship flips. People are your greatest leverage. We're rounding off now. Forget about investors and competitors. I always find this very funny. Entrepreneurs, they want to optimize for investors all the time. The reality is, investors will chase after you if you focus on the customers. So obsess over customers. Forget about investors. Forget about competition. At Ventures Platform, we don't bother with competition. We don't even think about it. We're focused 100% on our customers. Because when you do that, everything else follows. Stay close to your customers, talk to them, learn from them, listen to them. Ensure that your solution is addressing their problem in the best way possible. Everything else follows. PiggyVest did this really well. They obsessed about their customers so much so that they've built something similar to a cult following. I mean, if you talk bad about PiggyVest online today, you get attacked. Have you seen any of these online? It's trust that you can feel. And today, everyone wants to invest in PiggyVest, right? So it sounds basic, but a lot of people miss it. This is actually one of my favorite ones. Anyone know what a tailwind is? Not you, Femi. Of course you do. I'll stop picking on you, sorry. All right, go ahead, answer it, thanks. Okay, I'll save you. A tailwind is basically wind or momentum that is moving in your natural direction of travel. Within the context of business, tailwinds can be regulation, tailwinds can be popular culture, tailwinds can be lifestyle changes, tailwinds can be influence from other cultures. I'll give an example. About 2 years ago, the central bank had a policy for, what did they call it? Naira, right? They were retiring the old Naira. A lot of people don't realize that businesses like Money Point grew tremendously in that period. So while many businesses were struggling, they were going in the opposite direction. Largely because they spotted and they rode the tailwind. Now, for them to have ridden that tailwind, they had to be ready. And how were they ready? They had superior technology stack, such that a lot of the people that had to go digital chose Money Point. The smartest entrepreneurs don't wait for tailwinds to happen. They influence tailwinds. Who is the regulator of your sector? Has the policy, are the policies guarding or underlining your sector, have they been written? If they haven't been written, can you work with the regulator to design the policy frameworks in a manner that grows the ecosystem? I'm not one for ecosystem capture or state capture, but you can actually be one step ahead and design tailwinds. Thrive Agri rode a tailwind. At the time Thrive Agri came on scene, inflation was a problem. So people that had corporate jobs were desperately looking for ways to invest. And there was this rave around agric, everyone go and be an agric entrepreneur. But you wouldn't want to leave your job in Abuja to go farm in Benue, right? They rode that tailwind. What are the tailwinds in your industry? How can you ride those waves? Many a fortune, many a large businesses have become large businesses because they rode tailwinds. The best way to think about it is if you watch a surfer, what are surfers looking for? They're looking for waves they can ride. Where are the waves in your industry? As we round off, be accountable. It sounds basic, but many people don't get it. As an investor, we see many entrepreneurs, in the beginning, they are very loyal, they are very, very kind. Once they get money, no reporting, everything stops. But you forget that by reporting, you're carrying people along such that when you have challenges, they're there to support you. Another attribute of Shola, the CEO of Paystack, the most consistent reporting I've ever seen. And one of the things I can never forget is when the exit happened, he went back to the first email, the first investor updates that he ever wrote, and did a reply all. And it was like a full circle moment. Honestly, I almost cried. He understood the importance of reporting. have a board, have an advisory group. Hold yourself accountable. It's really, really important. I'm out of time. You're going to need grit because it is hard. If it's easy, then everyone will do it. So you're going to need to be gritty. And you can't pray the hardness away, I'm sorry. I mean, you can pray for grace, you can pray for peace, but it is going to be hard. Finally, what is your BIAG? What is your big, hairy, audacious goal? Uka of Thrive Agric wants to eliminate hunger. Can you actually get to the point that you eliminate hunger totally? Hello? And that's the idea of a BIAG. How do you build a vision for your business that is so distant that it inspires? At Ventures Platform, we say that we want to democratize prosperity in Africa. Even the Bible tells us that there will be poor people amongst us, right? But it's such a bold, forward-thinking vision that it inspires our team members, our investors, and everyone around us. Your business might be a juice-making business. What is the BIAG of that business? Maybe it's to elongate the lives of the average Nigerian. I just came up with this, by the way. It's so large and so vast that it inspires your team members. Every business here should have a BIAG. I think Google's BIAG was they want to create access to, they want to aggregate all of the world's wisdom. Femi, help me. What is it? Make all the world's information accessible. That's like, you're never gonna finish doing that, right? Every business that is viable and large and scales has a BIAG. So that's the list of that I could get through. 13 simple things I've learned from some of these entrepreneurs. In closing, I want to just spend a few minutes to share with you why this is important. Small is beautiful, but scale is necessary. And why is that? Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. The average African has a serious non-consumption problem. Let's just use poultry, for instance. The average Nigerian consumes I think this is in kilograms, yeah, 1 kg of chicken. Compare that with the average American, 58 kg. Let's look at credits. The average Nigerian consumes $280 of credits. Compare that with the average American. We're not even starting. So the needs here are so deep and so intense. And so there is so much need all around us. Next slide. And the reason that is the case is less than 1% of Africans earn $20 a day. We're extremely poor. So when people go about saying Nigeria is a rich country, I just laugh. We're extremely poor. Next slide. But you know what? We're also expanding as a population. So much so that by 2050, Africans will be 1/4 of global population. That scares me, man. And guess who will be the largest segment of that population? Nigeria. So clearly we need more capital and we need more viable businesses. Unfortunately today, in my industry, for instance, we only attract 1% of all the global venture capital. So despite all the announcements you see on TechCrunch and everywhere, it's just 1%. It's like 0.6%. But it's not only venture capital that is lagging behind. Next slide. The Nigerian government spends less than $350 on the average Nigerian. Benchmark that with Norway, $28,000. So all across the board, there's underinvestment. Now, all of this is creating a big problem. Unfortunately, because of that underinvestment, this segment of the population, what do we call them again? Non-consumers, low-income non-consumers, is expanding. And the non-consumption is becoming worse by the day. So there are real problems to solve. Because if we don't tackle these problems, this segment, next slide, and at the same time we become 1/4 of the global population, we have a big problem. And so I often ask people that, is this growing population going to be a blessing or a curse? And I honestly think the answer to that question lies in the businesses that you all build. Now, why is it important that those of us, and I'll end on this note, why is it important that those of us that call ourselves Christians, that are Christians, are called by Christ, why is it important that we build these businesses? The reason I think is important is, if you think about society in spheres, so sports, entertainment, we have an opportunity to take dominion and influence our world by being captains of the different industries. But not just that. When you become successful, you generate wealth. And that wealth can be utilized to take further dominion and to influence and shape things. And so the people building the businesses matter. Or rather, it's you than someone else. Thank you. I think I used up all my time, so there's...
Yes, that's fine. So this is Q&A time. Do we have questions? You can raise your hand if you have any. Oh, okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kola Aina. Thank you. I'm really excited I made it. And firstly, I want to say you have a problem. I am the solution. Yes, about the waste management and recycling. So that's what I do. So I'm really excited to be here. Thank you. Okay, so let's say with what I do, Trashmonger is a waste collection and recycling social enterprise. But then we have, like you said, we have competitors. And right here, one of the things I'm taking away is taking the focus away from the noise and focus on our inner energy and how we can maximize and take maybe the largest share of the sector, right? So I've been thinking of how to position ourselves, mostly looking at probably including more tech and all that, but then it's always like a lot. But then I want to ask that for someone that, when you talked about the businesses, for example, the examples you've used, how they look at what point do you decide, like for example, Thrive, the solution was for the local communities, but then they took from the rich people to empower the local communities. At what point do you position yourself for that, though? I don't know how to put the question better. Like,
Okay, thank you. So, yeah. So there are two things you said that I will respond to. I think the first one is, how do you use tech? So I'll give you one easy thing that I'm actually pitching people to do this. So let me pitch you. So I don't know the regulatory approval you need, but there's a segment of the population that really cares about where their trash goes. I do. Like, I don't want to litter. I don't like it. So what if you had a service that we could subscribe to, and when we have, say, part of what we do as a user is we segment our waste, and when we have something for you to pick up on the app, we can do a notification to you, and we pre-pack it, and then you just come and pick it up. Particularly the waste that you can monetize. That's one use of tech. And using my tips, I won't start with the app. I'll start with a simple WhatsApp, maybe group or something, and you see how it works before you build the tech. People often rush to build the tech. Start with, remember, the most basic version of that app that you can build to use to learn. I think if you can cross the regulatory hurdle, there's a large, I personally can assure you of 50 users if you build it. I can. No, honestly, because I'm going to get everyone on my streets to sign up so we can clean up the mess. I think the second, my street is actually not that messy, but for me, I have very high bars. It's not that bad. I don't want you to think there's junk all over the place. So the second question about, look, I think it's really about the business model. You have to have a viable business model. And oftentimes, many businesses have multi-dimensional stakeholders. So your user is not always going to be your peer, right? I think one sector where that's really important is the education sector. A lot of people expect the user to be the payer. That's not always the case. So business models like Andela, for instance, the payer was actually the offshore companies that hired the developers. You can argue that the users were the developers. In the Thrive Agri case, they had multi-dimensional stakeholders. The investors, the farmers, and then the off-takers. So I think it really has to do with your business model. And you want to start with as simple a business model as you can, and then build on top of that. But I'll be very happy to learn more about your business. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you, Kola, thank you. We met briefly at business office, and your insights were very useful. So we've been looking forward to, we run a business, I discussed with you about it, Farmalat. We're looking forward to this meeting that the chairman of our advisory board, Professor Fashina, is here, and he answered one of your questions. He works with FAO. But you said start small, but skills are necessary. I think my biggest question now is, you could start small. It means that you are probably in a small place. So, but if you're going to scale, you can't scale as a small person. So one of the biggest challenge I have now, it's how do I grow as fast as the need we are meeting as a CEO, but more importantly, how do I quickly grow our team to meet the demand? There are solutions we could give, and I asked myself one simple question. We just launched in Monrovia, Liberia, and we had to pick a member of our team, leaving a gap. And while we're in Monrovia, we got a delegation to Côte d'Ivoire to do the same thing. And I said, no, we will have to grow at the pace in which we have the capacity to handle. So what's going to be your biggest advice in scaling, first me, and then in scaling my team?
That's such a great question, and good to meet you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. I saw your post. Asset light, asset heavy. Well done. Yeah. Your business is going to be capped by the human capacity in the business, no doubt. And so, if the market is pulling your business, you're actually very lucky. Many businesses have missed the point of inflection. There's a point a business gets to where if you don't strengthen that bench, you will miss it. And so it's really important to know when you need to scale your people. And scaling your people might mean you need to bring in more competent people, more experienced people. It might mean you need to, and I don't think this is the case for you, by the way, but I've invested in businesses where the CEO decided that I shouldn't be CEO anymore. I don't think this is your case. In fact, there's one business, I won't mention it, that there were two co-founders. The business started scaling. One of the co-founders realized that they didn't enjoy managing people. They just wanted to remain technical. You know what they did? They hired someone else to become CTO, and the guy just stayed coding. Because you have to be true to yourself as a chief executive or as a co-founder, because your business will be limited. I think another insight I will share is, I think there are two ways to build businesses. You can either build businesses broadly, or you can build them deeply. I prefer to build deeply. I've built broadly before, and I've seen the downsides of that. By deeply means that you're going deep and you're building, so if you take a product company, you're building product excellence. By building broadly, you're focused on expansion and business development. A good example of a company that I think built deeply is Paystack. Paystack said, Shola's obsession was product excellence. As an investor, I can't count the number of times that I called Shola to say, hey, I have this idea, or I know this person, do you want to do payments for tax collection? He said, okay, I've heard. Because he was focused on going deep. Today, Paystack is one, if you're counting top 3 payment platforms in Nigeria. Most people say even in terms of reliability, Paystack is probably number 1. I mean, I'm invested in Moneypoint too, so I won't cause a war, but yeah. So I think you want to be pragmatic. You can't necessarily go as fast as you want to go with. I love to give young upstarts a chance, but there's a stage your business to get to that you need to bring in people who are experienced, have done it before. What I would not compromise though is cultural fit. So culture is really important to me. I believe that culture is strategy for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So even where you're looking for a super experienced person, I wouldn't hire a super experienced person that is not a fit for my culture. Culture is number 1, right? So you have to scale your people. You can't even, there's no compromise in that. I love the way Michael Seibel of Y Combinator says it. He says you have to hire for your pain. Like once something is becoming painful in the business and problematic, it's a sign that you need to hire for it. And he says that because as a startup, you don't want to become bloated too quickly, right? I think there's also a world where you hire in advance of your pain, right? You forecast that, okay, this is going to be important, so we need to start investing in this area. One of the challenges I see many businesses having is they wait too long to strengthen their financial system. So if you're building a financial services company, for instance, or a fintech, you can't be using 2 Kobo accountant. You know, you're managing people's money. Many businesses have run into big problems because of that. because they're not managing their cash flows well, they're commingling funds. And small problems become big problems. I hope that helps. Thank you. Yeah.
Hello. Good morning, sir. Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Kola, for your session. My name is Victor. And my question is this. For an organization that's into consulting, how does the organization position itself as one providing markets, creating innovations? Or does this concept not apply to organizations like that?
It's a good question you ask. I think consulting firms have a more difficult path to scale. Because think about it, when you're consulting, you're essentially selling your time, right? And so I had this challenge actually at some point. So my enterprise software business, we started as a consulting firm. And the big challenge we had was, how do we productize our services so that we can scale? It's very difficult. The best models I've seen for scaling consulting firms is, if you think about what the large consultancies like McKinsey's that have used partnership models to scale themselves. But I'm also seeing a trend where people are using AI and technology to productize some of what a consultant would do for you, so that you have some off-the-shelf products that can be scalable. The more scalable businesses tend to be product businesses, not consulting businesses, if I want to be brutally honest. But please look at the models of the McKinseys of this world, and also explore what you could do using AI to productize some of your service offerings. AI is really helping in that area.
So we are really out of time. We'll accommodate just one more question.
We have a lady whose hand has been up for a while. Can we take that last one after this one, please?
Okay, after this.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. So,
If the pastor permits. Thank you.
all right, this is very short. So, I want you to throw more light on government policy over startups. Thank you very much.
I mean, what can I say? I think people complain a lot that government is getting in the way, but I believe that government has a responsibility to protect citizens, right? So the regulators have a job to do. I think more entrepreneurs have to collaborate with government, have to educate government officials. And the example I gave about tailwinds, regulatory tailwinds are one of the most powerful tailwinds you can leverage. So how can you preempt the direction of travel and pre-position your business for that direction of travel? A good example, for instance, is renewable energy. There's a lot of talk now about banning solar panels and whatnot. Is there an opportunity there? Can you preempt that? Can you position yourself? The cost of energy is on the rise. That's a tailwind, right? Some entrepreneurs are already kind of leveraging that to scale their businesses. So pay attention. You can't just be buried in your business. You have to come up once in a while and scan. Okay, thanks. And the last question. No pressure, the best question.
Good morning, sir. Thank
Morning.
you very much.
Yeah.
My name is Blessing. I'm a small business owner. I produce car wash liquid,
Okay,
the floor cleaning liquid, and the dishwashing liquid.
wonderful.
I started in 2023, and I produced about 600 bottles. I was able to sell over a period of 6 months. I produced in November over 2,000 bottles. I sent to Lagos, and they're running out of the products. So I'm planning to make another production. The first issue right here is NAFDAC. I've started the process, but it's looking like they have to see a proper production house before I can get that approval. So I decided to get investors. I approached investment houses and companies. They asked for business plan. I've been on this since January. My last speech was on Tuesday, and they still pick out some things like this is like the fourth time I'm pitching.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, so all these monies I'm using to do business plan, I'm using to do this and that because they said I have to do another business plan. I said, okay, maybe I should just relax, put this money together and just continue producing the way I'm producing because I actually have a market in a supermarket that allows me to supply them with NAFDAC number, 3,700 bottles every month. So I'm like, okay, so should I just relax on this, having a production house or something? Because I made a post on, I think on Wednesday, that I need marketers if you want to be a distributor. And 2 people actually reached out to me from Ogun State that they want to distribute. So I'm like, okay, so where will I get this money? So I have a lot of things in my head. I also want to start the hand wash for restrooms and all of that.
Yep.
So what do I do? I have these things in my head, but I can't just, like, it's not coming up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
First thing I'll say is that you have a very good problem. Any business that is doing import substitution has huge potential because we all saw what has happened with FX. So if you go across supermarkets, you're seeing local brands replacing imported brands. So you should be very excited. You have a really unique business. I think that you have an option. Do you want to stay small and grow slowly? Or do you want to be big and grow quickly? If you want to be big and grow quickly, you have to do the business plan. You have to write it. Femi behind you there, I don't know if you know him, I'm putting him on the spot, can actually mentor you in writing a good business plan. I mean, it's not impossible. And you shouldn't be paying to have your business plan written. You should actually write it yourself. You know, there are templates online because if you write it yourself, then you will have better command of it. You can speak authentically. Investors can see through a business plan that someone else wrote for you, right? So you can do it. Believe that you can do it. There are templates online. There are people that can help you do it. Don't give up. You have a huge potential because of this need for us to do import substitution in Nigeria. I want to see your stuff on the shelf soon. Thank you.
Please let's clap for Mr. Kola Aina. Can we appreciate him? Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much, Mr. Kola. That was amazing. And to be honest, I think that we couldn't have a better way to wrap up our business and finance series on this live class. It's a real honor to meet you and to really hear the insights that you've shared again today. So thank you for being here. So can we once again just jam our hands together for Mr. Aina? My notes are full, to be honest, but we don't have time, so I can't say much. I just want to say to everyone that we continue the live class, and Kola made a very important point. One of the points he made about people being your greatest leverage, and you'd have heard that. And I think that's a very important point because we're transitioning from business and finance to discussing more on social capital, on social currency. So from next week, we're going to be launching that series with Niyi Adesoya, and he'll be here. And so please, again, invite your friends. We want people to come out and hear and benefit. You know, as you're building your business, you can have all these wonderful structures in place, but you also need to understand the place of people. And so we'll be starting that next week. I will just, because of service starts in about a minute, so I'll just say again, thank you so much, everyone, for being here, and have a wonderful service.